Trump is getting really, really scary. We shift now back to a very serious topic, and that is that Trump's response, as we talked about yesterday, to the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk has been one of further inflammation, trying to inflame the situation more, lie about the truth of this horrible problem we have in America of political violence, and distort his telling such that we're not going to have any progress in minimizing this type of bloodshed. And that comes in the form of this that I'll play for you. And I just want to say again, because I know some people don't watch all the segments, they might just stumble across one. It is horrible, wherever you stand, to be exploiting this moment to further an inflammatory, violence-provoking, or division-provoking cause. And if you're a random lefty out there saying that, I'm going to call it out. Trump is the most powerful person, and so I'm definitely going to call that out as well. Here he is.
They're already under investigation.
Already under investigation.
Have you asked to start revoking the visas of those who have celebrated Charlie Kirk's death?
What?
Have you asked to start revoking the visas of the foreigners who have celebrated Charlie Kirk's death?
No, we haven't, but we are looking at names. We don't like that. That's not right. We wouldn't celebrate if something happened on their side, and we don't. These are sick people. These are really deranged people.
Any progress on the Fed chairman search?
So you hear what he said? Again, man, I wish we could all be on the same page here. Horrified and opposed, wanting justice for Kirk and his family, and being truthful about the broader problem of political violence, and how people in positions of power contrast in their reaction when it happens. And that's very important, because what he just said there was, we wouldn't celebrate if something happened on their side, and we don't. And so I show this to you because we have to have honesty from the president, especially about such an important topic. And that's just not true. We've shown this before, but Republican Senator Mike Lee was making jokes about Nightmare on Wall Street, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, after in Minnesota, Melissa Hortman and her husband were slaughtered by a pro-Trump individual. And then you had Donald Trump Jr., and these are just the most viral examples. And I'm trying to only focus on people who are really influential, because I know we could do this thing where we characterize the other side just by the random people on social media constantly. I just don't think that's productive. But this is Donald Trump Jr., the son of Trump. The internet remains undefeated. And it's a photo of a hammer and underwear, because Paul Pelosi was in his underwear when he nearly got killed by being bashed in the head with a hammer by another right-wing individual who was talking about the stolen election and blah, 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 blah. And then remember that Trump said this after Paul Pelosi. And this is to correct the record, because I don't want anyone making light of, I don't want anyone downplaying politically motivated murders. Not of Kirk, not of Melissa Hortman, not attempted murders of Paul Pelosi. But when the right says that their leaders don't do this, while Democrats aren't doing that, then we're not on the same page as to where we really stand factually. Because we need our leaders first and foremost, as well as I wish every random person online. But we need our leaders first and foremost to have an unequivocal response to political violence, wherever it comes from and whoever it targets.
We'll stand up to crazy Nancy Pelosi, who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know? And she's against building a wall at our border, even though she has a wall around her house, which obviously didn't do a very good job.
And then the broader, MAGA ecosystem and leaders in power either ignored Melissa Hortman's murder in many cases, or now we're switching back from Pelosi to there, or ran with a lot of conspiracy theories, like about Paul Pelosi, that tried to, in the case of Pelosi, make it seem like he deserved it because he was like in a squabble with a gay lover, which is a total fabrication. It was just a lie. And then they never went back and corrected that. And then same thing with Hortman. people making up all these lies about how Tim Walz was ordering the assassination of Hortman, and really prominent figures signal boosting that. And so I'll just keep saying it. I know it's going to get repetitive, but I'm just going to keep saying it. If we can't operate truthfully in the wake of an assassination of someone prominent like Charlie Kirk, and really have a thoughtful conversation about how to prevent future families from losing loved ones like that, and we're not going to talk about the full thing, then I don't think you're serious about addressing the problem, which really breaks my heart. More from Trump.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
So you see what I mean? Isn't that really bizarre? Because it would be one thing to say the scum who specifically were engaged in acts of violence. Like if you called the shooter, Tyler Robinson, of Charlie Kirk scum. All right, he's scum. Fair. But he just starts shifting and going, oh, no. This is all radicalism and violence is coming from the left, number one, and that's a false statement, obviously. And number two, then he links it to people burning flags, which I don't want to burn an American flag, and I don't like when other people do, but they have the right to, obviously, if it's theirs. And now he's just making this a broader political critique to justify saying, I guess because of political, which, remember when people used the American flag to beat police officers? I think that's a little worse. But that is proof that there's only a problem of violence on one side. Then you had J.D. Vance articulating that.
And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left.
Okay, so I know he's choosing to mislead there, and that's unfortunate. But if you're really good faith out there, I'm curious, like, where are you getting that from? It doesn't matter to me. There's not, and if it were more, because it's more common that it comes from the right, that means it doesn't matter that Charlie Kirk was from. No. So this individual tragedy is not changed by the broader stats. And our powerful opposition to it is not changed by the stats. But there are stats, and he brought them up, so you can ask Grok, Elon's chatbot, so that we can operate in reality and properly diagnose the issue here, or just be generally truthful. That's important. And Elon got Grok in trouble, you might remember, because Grok kept giving this answer because it's the statistically true one. And he said, I'm going to fix Grok. And then after fixing it, it still gives the same answer. Right-wing extremist murders have been significantly more common than left-wing extremist murders in the United States over the last decade. And it kind of concerns me the way they feel that misleading about that is necessary to their response to Kirk's assassination. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's totally reasonable, especially people who knew him personally, to just have not just heartbreak, but a political deep despair. And then all of us have a principled opposition and an empathetic opposition to what we all witnessed. But why is it important to them to say there isn't, actually more commonly, right-wing extremist murders to continue their response? That's what's, anytime someone's being dishonest about something, you start asking why. It's not necessary. If you're saying we need to stop instances of political violence, or there's still some ambiguity, I'm going to just let the investigation take place, but the statement from the Utah governor is it was left-wing ideology. But either way, if you're saying it's you feel this is left-wing violence, then oppose that for sure. But all of it, right? Wherever it's coming from. And and that's it. I guess I'm kind of talking my way into what we knew the conclusion was going to be, which is it's a way of justifying right-wing political violence, to erase the stories of Democrats who were recently murdered, and to act like this is only a one-sided problem when it is skewed, but it's actually the other way. But if that is so necessary to all their arguments, it does make you wonder, is it really that important that they whitewash other instances of political violence? And it's a dark conclusion, but I think it's maybe the only rational one. And then Trump said that, I guess, left-wing groups are under investigation.
It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
Do you plan on investigating?
We'll see. We'll be announcing. They're already under investigation. You know, they're already under major investigation. A lot of the people that you would traditionally say are on the left.
They're already under.
So it's a really scary situation, because what a lot of people are sounding the alarm about, you had a New York Times piece, is White House plans broad crackdown on liberal groups. And so that's not a rational response. Now, if you actually had, like, let's say you had some Antifa group that was actively planning and perpetuating violence, well, then law enforcement would have an interest in that. But this is, we can be honest, they're just going to use it as a justification to target liberal groups. And he said, oh yeah, we're already investigating. We've already been investigating, which is kind of a little bit of an admission there, left-wing groups. And the fear that a crackdown will be justified, which history has taught us, this is something that happens, which is something genuinely terrible happens that everyone could have united in opposition to. In this case, obviously everyone didn't quickly, but then a leader uses that to further what is making people less safe and is kind of political retribution and not actual justice. And it seems that we're starting to move in that direction. You also have a lot of strangely, especially with how little we know as of now, false claims spreading around. Like Carrie Lake urged mothers not to send kids to college, claiming accused Kirk shooter was brainwashed at college. So using this as sort of a, now I'm going to talk about how college indoctrination, I just see it as insensitive, for one, detached from how I think reasonable people handle such events, but it's being used to perpetuate now this argument, even though that doesn't really make much sense given Tyler Robinson's background. In 2021, Robinson attended Utah State University for just one semester, and I think it was virtual because it was during the pandemic. As a pre-engineering major, he's currently enrolled in the third year of an electrical apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College in St. George, Utah. A 2024 ranking by College Rover listed Utah State as the 8th most conservative college in the U.S., writing that was considered among the most conservative non-religion affiliated universities in America. So it doesn't seem that because he went to college for a semester and then he was in a technical apprenticeship, that's what radicalized him. It seems abundantly clear the places he went online radicalized him. And let's discuss that. And how do we, through our speech and our rhetoric, prevent radicalization, pull people into a rational, peaceful approach to politics? That's a great conversation. But just randomly throwing out, don't send your kids to college because he went to one of the most conservative universities, doesn't square in my brain. I think this is maybe a part of the clip.
We've got to stop this, folks. We can't let this go on. This violence has got to stop. It's got to stop.
True.
And I'm not going to say our side is perfect, but damn it, this is coming from the other side. How does a 22-year-old become so filled with hate? 5 years earlier, I was told he was a Trump supporter. And we sent our kids off to college and they brainwashed them. I am making a plea to mothers out there. Do not send your children in.
Yeah, so that just doesn't have anything to do with this. And I'm so confused. I'm so confused, people. I had a really close friend call me watching our recent segments, asking if I was okay, because a lot of my segments are more maybe transparently disoriented about this than normal. And it's because I don't know how more people aren't transparently distraught that this is what we're devolving into. And people are just using a public assassination to further all sorts of random arguments that don't even connect. And people are lying about the facts of the case to justify their political argument. And yes, there are examples of liberal figures doing that. Yeah, it's just really, really disorienting. We also saw some people bring back the conversation of maybe this is a video game problem. I will remind you that, as you can see here, video games, violent video games even, are very common in many other countries. But then you can see that next to those same countries compared with our gun violence. So I don't know if that's necessarily. I get, though, that being brought up. We just don't have a data case for it. And so we do have to be thoughtful about that and implement solutions that have been proven. Now, that wasn't necessarily going to make a difference in Kirk's assassination when it comes to gun regulation. But with the broader problem of gun violence, common sense gun regulations have proven to make a real difference. And restricting video games in these certain ways, it isn't, at least in a data-driven way. But I do get when I was never a big video game person. When I've seen certain video games, I'm like, it feels like it could desensitize you. Then Mike Johnson had this to say.
People have got to stop framing simple policy disagreements in terms of existential threats to our democracy and all these phrases you hear all the time. You can't call the other side fascists and enemies of the state and not understand that there are some deranged people in our society who will take that as cues to act. And
so again, I think of the reaction from a lot of people when people say stuff like that is, all right, are you wanting to bring up a real conversation about our language and politics? But you're characterizing it as the left is using these terms against the right and that shouldn't be allowed, but not interfacing with stuff like this.
During a Veterans Day speech in New Hampshire.
We will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
So communists, fascists, vermin. And what? What is that a problem? Please be consistent. Is that a problem? Because Democrats were murdered just recently. Maybe the shooter definitely did, as he was a supporter of Trump, was hearing that the Democrats are fascists and vermin living in the country. But it can't just be a distorted, one-sided discussion. That's the problem. That is the real problem. And if you want some hope, by the way, since I do think a lot of genuine, more conservative people are feeling detached from their liberal neighbors right now, and I get that, and are feeling like what they're seeing online, some really heinous stuff people are saying, is representative of the broader country or the broader left. I saw that Phil Williams posted interesting polling data. Those with unfavorable views of Donald Trump are the least likely to support political violence. So actually getting some data on this, not just the most provocative examples online that people will go viral if they're disgusting. That's engagement. Engagement sells. But if you want some hope about your liberal neighbors, actually least likely to support political violence you saw there. Then Pete Buttigieg had this to say.
It's not just the sickness of somebody who would pick up a gun and shoot someone, but I think a broader societal sickness that, frankly, I think you could see and feel in how many people around America, normal people, not dangerous people, were at a moment when we all should have still been praying for the victim and his family, were busy online praying for some shred of evidence that the shooter would turn out to be from the other political team. That is not healthy, and that is not a way forward, but that is exactly what the algorithm pushes us to do. And this does seem to be especially acute for young men. Young men right now, statistically, are the group most likely to spend most of their time alone. That is a prescription for a deeper societal level of pain and unraveling that we have got to turn around.
And that, as he often does, words things in a way that I think a lot more people can resonate with than a lot of politicians. That's the things I'm talking about when I go, man, imagine if we weren't so psychotic online and could have a more thoughtful discussion about what takeaways we should have, what changes we should make, how we address a loneliness crisis that does promote more radicalism. But barely anyone's bringing that up. And I agree with him. I was really bothered by how many people seemed more concerned, not with the event, but with how it could be framed. Just hoping that it's the other side that this, perpetrator, murderer will be aligned with. And it shows you everything now is a team sport, no matter how severe in America.